Francis Bacon is remembered, celebrated, memorialized as one of the leading figures in British history. In many aspects of his life, chiefly as a public man, it is difficult to see why. Nearly all of his life was spent on the edge between promise and disaster, leaning more to the latter. He was born into a prominent family, but his father died when Bacon was young, and he lost almost all of his inheritance, putting him swiftly and soundly into debt. Finances would trouble him for the rest of his life, forcing him to chase after money and appointments, making alliances with people like Lord Essex, which would advance him one day, and then, when his benefactor was tried and executed for treason, threaten him the next. Slipping and sliding, overcoming snubs, currying favor, he made it all the way to Lord Chancellor, which only made him a bigger target. He was accused of 23 charges of corruption, accepting bribes and such, and that marked the end of his political career. When he died, he was still in debt, and he was also childless, so any titles he had won were erased. Speaking of being childless, he was no more successful at love than he had been at money. There was a woman he wanted to marry when he was younger, but she left him for a man with greater wealth. When he did finally marry, Bacon was 45 and his bride was 14. He died without issue, and there is some word out that he was more inclined to what was then called masculine love. John Aubrey, in his Brief Lives, called him a pederast. The facts of that matter are inconclusive. None of this is very inspiring stuff. It doesn't seem like the kind of life that will win you a statue in Westminster Abbey or the like. Bacon wrote some books. I'm not familiar with them, but I think he considered them his principal achievement. Some people say that he wrote Shakespeare's entire canon, but others say that's nonsense. He did toss off some shorter prose pieces, 50 or so, essays they were called. He did not invent the form. That honor usually slides across the channel to France and Michel de Montaigne, but Bacon wrote with distinction and a penetrating mind about a wide array of subjects, using these little essays as a means to explore his thoughts. He was a curious individual. I believe it is true that Bacon thought there were 3 hallmarks of his age: the printing press, the compass, and gunpowder. Today we have the internet, GPS, or any of the satellite tracking systems, and atomic energy. There was another way he was an explorer, in science, and it's there, I think, that he made his mark and opened up the modern age for humanity. He insisted on engaging the world around him in a thoroughly objective manner. The only way of acquiring true knowledge about it, he said, was to investigate it properly. Formulate a question, collect evidence, design a hypothesis in answer to the question, and then run tests or experiments trying to demonstrate flaws in the hypothesis. And if you cannot disprove it, declare it to be a law of nature, until someone else can show otherwise. Because it is important to share your findings with as wide a range of people as possible, expanding the scientific community, and in doing so, increase your chances of discovery and progress. Today we call this the scientific method. It's still around, a veritable searchlight pointing into the darkness and dusty corners of our ignorance, discovering fresh notions about the nature of reality nearly every day, and maybe even more important, exposing ridiculous notions for what they are. When it comes to producing reliable information, you really can't beat the scientific method. We like to attribute discoveries to individuals so we can have our heroes, while the truth of the matter is, in many cases, several or many people share the merit. In this case, the evidence points mainly to one man who defended the approach to discovery as if it was a point of honor, Sir Francis Bacon. He consistently applied it to the end of his days, and it's possible that curiosity killed this cat. It is said that he was riding in a carriage, looking out at the snow on the ground, and he thought about salt as a preservative of meats. He wondered if snow might have a similar effect. The story goes that he stopped the carriage at a farmhouse, bought a chicken, and immediately stuffed the carcass with snow, caught a cold, and died as a result, not knowing the outcome of his final experiment. The story would seem to indicate that if the snow did preserve the chicken, it did not do the same for bacon.